رجعنا معكم ومازلنا مواصلين في تغطيتنا الخاصة في برنامجكم إيكوماج، مواصلين مع ضيفنا مسيو جود Chemieka, CEO Nigerian Exchange Limited. Bienvenue, welcome here to Tunisia, Mr. Jude.
Thank you so much for having us. Delighted to be here.
Thank you. So, باش نحكيو على الجرين فينانس والانرجي ترانزيشن، الانتقال الطاقي والفينانس فيرت. دونك هذا هو باش يكون محور لقائنا. باش نحاول اني نترجم بلوز او موان معناتها en instantané. I have to translate our interview, Mr. Chemieka. So, from firstly, what incentive mechanism could encourage more companies in the region to issue green or social bonds?
All right, thank you. So the concept of green finance is growing globally. So if you think about the whole level of sustainability, sustainability-linked notes, social bonds, you're talking about globally in the region of $6 trillion. And green finance or green bonds is about 57% of that. So that's about 3.2 trillion US dollars. And so there's a lot of scope for issuances in the region, because if you think about all the countries within the region, they are still very limited. In Nigeria, we have over 18 to 20 million issuance, and the federal government is looking to issue about 150 million in that space. So we think the sort of incentive would be for investors who will be investing in the instruments to have like tax incentive, like withholding tax or capital gain tax should be waived to encourage more participants to issue. And also for the issuers, what will really encourage them is the framework associated with issuances, especially around the reporting. What we find is a lot of the people or countries within the region are still relying on international providers around the whole reporting format and evaluation. And so that makes it really more expensive. So if they can try and localize all the various stages, so it becomes a lot easier for them to be able to issue at a much reduced cost. Obviously, that will really help to encourage more issuances in the region.
Okay, so our regional regulators are ready to align their frameworks with international ESG, environmental, social, and governance standards.
I believe they are. I mean, the conversation is no longer a case of option. It's really more of a compulsory compliance. And so the issuers, so the regulators across the region are taking this very seriously. First, it starts with really having like the guidelines, sustainability guidelines that they will obviously encourage corporates to adopt. And now we're beginning to see corporates even making a bold step away from the sustainability guidelines. They are now providing all of that sustainability work in their financials, just to show what they are doing around sustainability. And what we find is investors typically find such companies a lot more they are more interested in such companies because they feel that they have a high level of corporate governance. So there's a lot of liquidity around such companies. And so that in itself always encourages the regulators to make sure that they have the right framework to encourage corporates that list on their platform to adopt green finance and sustainability and all the ESG principles, especially around the reporting. Which is now fast catching. We're talking about the SSB standard, Sustainability Standard Board 1 and 2. That makes it really compelling for companies to adopt that. And we're seeing early adopters even in our markets. But we do know by 2028 it becomes more like mandatory for companies to begin to adopt that. So from a framework perspective, I believe that the regional exchanges are very committed to this and are creating the enable environment to ensure that corporates that list on these platforms are all internationalized because of the many international investors that invest in these markets.
Okay, so what about Nigerian market?
So the Nigerian market, in terms of adoption, we're on track. We've gone past the process of sustainability guideline. We've done that since 2018. Now we're talking about the financial reporting. And more recently, we're now providing a platform that we call Fast Behind Sustainability Reporting for corporates to be able to communicate to the larger stakeholder community, to investors, as to what they are doing. And we're seeing corporates who are taking this lead, getting a lot of interest, not just from domestic investors, but from also international investors. So in terms of standard, we are really compliant with the SS1 and SS2 regulatory framework for corporates in terms of how they will adopt sustainability in their own reporting guidelines. So we're quite committed to this approach, and we believe that all the many work we have done around the green bond issuance better prepares us to be able to do this sort of work, and we'll continue to internationalize our framework in line with the interest of international investors that invest in our market. Currently, we have about 35% of international investors who invest in our market, and it's because of this commitment that we have a board we call the Premium Board that is dedicated to the highest level of corporate governance, and we see that they command the highest level of liquidity, and we're always creating opportunities for corporates to adopt the required standard to be able to meet up with the expectation of these international investors that invest in our markets.
Okay, so how can capital markets attract more funding for renewable energy projects in Africa?
I think that diverse ways this can be done. Obviously, if you think about the equities capital markets, that in itself could be limiting. So it's very important to be broad-minded and also look at debt capital market as an alternative. But beyond that, is to be more innovative around how instruments can be structured, targeted for renewable energy and the likes. For instance, creating infrastructural bonds that are linked to all this energy transition that you corporates want to carry out, and also having special purpose vehicles that will be utilized to finance renewable energy and the likes. But more importantly, creating an instrument like would be in form of an investment trust that is committed to this. We've seen that being utilized across different geographies, and we think that is something that will really do well in our region if we use a broad and innovative financing approach to be able to raise the required capital to address the gap that we find in this space.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Jude Chemieka, CEO, Nigerian Exchange Limited. Thank you for your presence here with us at Express FM. نحاول نترجم rapidement اللي كان يحكي فيه. دونك حاولنا نحكيو على شنو ما اليوم الحاجات اللي تنجم تخلي المارشي ولا لي ميكانيزم اللي نجموا يحركوا اليوم لي زونتربريز باش يكونوا اكثر ماشيين في الجرين بونز ولا السوشيال بونز. دونك حكينا على اهم الحاجات اللي لازمهم يسو ديفلوب اكثر، الوعي اللي لازم يكون اكثر. حكينا زاده كيف على لي ريغولاتور اليوم ريجيونو اللي ينجموا اسكو والا لا ينجموا الاليني اليوم الفريم وركس نتاعهم بارابور للاو اس جي لي كونديسيون او اس جي ولي كريتير او اس جي. نحكيو على لونفيرونمون السوسيال بيان ايفيدامون ولا غوفرنانس وبيان سور لي ستاندار هذا يقول لي فما خدمه كبيره لازمها تصير، فما اليوم كولابوراسيون لازمها تصير. بالنسبه لي نيجيريا بالذات فما بورد كامل قاعد يخدم على النقطه هذه، ولكن يقول انه راهو اليوم ايتون دوني كو نحكيو على ان مارشي ايميرجون وقت اللي نقولوا جرين فاينانس اليوم يلزم لو كونتينون افريكان يخدم عليه ولي لي مارشي دو كابيتو كيف حتى هو ينجم يكون ان ميور معناتها مارشي اتراكتيف بالنسبه للانرجي رينوفلابل ولي بروجي دينرجي رينوفلابل في افريقيا. Thank you very much مستر شميكا. شكرا ليك. احنا مازلنا مواصلين معكم في برنامجكم ايكوماك حتى الماضي 3.